Hello, all you dinks out there. This is Jeff Horowitz from Dentist in the Know. Welcome to Hump Day Happy Hour with Dentist in the Know. This is your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. It is live. It is also over a little glass of Sauvignon Blanc tonight. Excited about that. As you know, I do this show every single week with two of my best friends in the world, Dr. Jennifer Bell and Dr. Chad Duplantis. And all of us are practicing dentists. We're all business owners and we're all educators. And our job is to bring all of you in the know. And tonight, my fellow dinks, we actually have a really great guest that's going to talk about profitability, which has been a really hot topic in the last year or two. Really, since COVID, profitability has become a hot topic because many of us have felt the crunch of rising prices and higher staffing costs. So stick around, everyone. We've got an incredible show for you.
So unlike a lot of other Facebook groups, we are not completely driven by sponsorship and sales, but we do have educational partners. And I think it's really important that we point that out. One of the things that I would like to share is this past 2 weeks ago, we were at ADA. I went over to our good friends at Q Optics. I told them a few things that I needed. They made a couple notes and I was like, you're kind of thinking, yeah, I'll never see that. No, they sent me everything that I asked for. The other thing is that this morning.
You got 20 pairs of loops?
No, it was just like little, the little filters for the loops.
Are you holding out batteries?
Chad? And it was things that I needed and I'm happy to pay for, but I'm like, hey, do you want to come by the office? No, they just jotted it down and it showed up. That's customer service. But again, This morning, Dr. Lon McRae texted me, asked me, what loop company that we use. I told him. I connected him with Brent Downs. Literally 20 minutes later, Lon texts me and Brent and says, thank you so much. Sawyer already contacted me. We're already rolling. My staff and I need new loops. That is customer service.
That's
so
awesome.
I want to give a shout out to Q Optics. That was just really fantastic. And the thing is it's not just Q Optics. It's every educational partner we have. That's the type of service that you're going to get. So, and I mean that. I'm not just saying that. And if you're not getting that service, then I want to hear about it. Okay.
Agreed. Can I also give our own group a little shout out for a moment?
Oh yeah.
Is this Shout Out Wednesday?
Shout Out Wednesday.
You can do it, JB, but Chad, no more.
Never.
No.
I want to give our group, particularly our administrative staff, quick, Jeff, call Adamo.
Yeah,
Adamo. Sorry.
Adamo.
I just want to say that to date, we are not the group using the @everyone tag. And I do think that is worth mentioning because I am now on so many groups that first it was a little bit of a lighthearted joke. Like, we're not going to abuse this. And then everybody would respond very negatively about it. And then that ship has sailed. And now every one of the online forums I watch and kind of review content from is using the @everyone tag. I don't know if Dentist in the Know is ready to make a proclamation that we will not use it, but I think there's something to be said about putting your flag in the earth and saying, this is where we stand, because it is driving me bonkers. Please. I had my first patient come in the other day. So for those who are new to the program or haven't, listened to all the episodes, we were really lucky to have Dr. Zuckerberg, who is Mark's dad, on the show. Who is that? Not right?
No, I'm laughing because you can hear Jeff. It sounds like he's peeing. He's pouring he's over here. He's
Mark's gonna have a lot to
go over here real quiet and pour a glass of wine, and it sounds like a horse peeing.
Listen, I never thought this would happen. I'm always the first one on, waiting for you two boneheads to get on. So I got nothing to do. So my first glass is always down at the bottom.
You should have everyone to Facebook to let them know that you were waiting on us.
Yeah.
Jeff is urinating on Dink's Live. Sorry, go ahead, JB. I was rude.
It's fine. Dr. Zuckerberg was on our show, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, maybe. And of course, that's Mark's dad, Mark being the founder of Facebook. But lo and behold, his dad was a dentist. So he has had a really interesting journey. And obviously, with Mark's presence in the tech space, it's sort of morphed from dentistry. I had my first patient who came in and said, "Have you heard this thing about Viome?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes." In fact, I know part of the people who have founded it and are pumping a bunch of cash in it. Anyway, he was blown away with the information that he received from. Yes.
So
Can
I'm
you
going to do this.
Can you
this
record
week,
yourself and then
and
let's
I'm going to
walk this
share the
whole
results with
process?
everybody.
I love that. Anyway, he was blown away. He'd been having some weird health issues. And his personal opinion was he felt that the medical community wasn't really looking at it from a holistic perspective, just sort of targeting individual symptoms and trying to manage that. And he learned a lot about his body and genetics and processing and all his gut bacteria and all of those things to try to make better decisions. So I was like, yes, this is the first patient I've seen using Viome, and I wanted so much feedback from it. So, I think it could be a good asset for us in the future.
That's really funny that you say that, because I had a patient that came in last week because they had seen our YouTube show on Viome, and the patient was a Viome user, and exact same situation as you were having with this patient from Viome.
All right. So let's talk about the news for this week. There's always something interesting. I think for a large group of dentists in the US, the Henry Schein cyberattack from this weekend has been kind of a gut-wrenching experience, especially if you're used to being able to order pretty seamlessly. So for those of you who are Henry Schein customers and clients, I'm really sorry about the agony and pain that you've been going through over the last couple of days. All it does is continue to remind me that we are all incredibly vulnerable to cyber attacks. And it would seem that no matter how large and how large the company is and how much they're investing in protecting the data, that we are all vulnerable to those attacks. And Schein proved to be no different. So hopefully they'll get things restored pretty quickly and get their customers back online, able to order and schedule maintenance without much challenge. Another interesting story that came out this week, and this could be an interesting change over the next decade, I would say. So PA, Pennsylvania, has a bill that's coming forward to their legislature over the next couple of months. It passed through one of their subcommittees that was working on this particular bill, and it relates to dental hygienists being able to perform dental exams. Now, it passed unanimously out of this subcommittee and is moving on to their House and Senate floors. This is supposed to be exclusively for school screening programs in the state of Pennsylvania. They have an interval at which students are required to have dental screenings, and that happens at kindergarten, first grade, fourth, and seventh, I believe. And currently, the state has the law in the books that dentists must perform those screening exams. Well, it looks like there's a movement to move that towards hygienists being able to perform those exams. Obviously, we could definitely get on a soapbox of this particular topic and what does it mean to be a hygienist and legally diagnosing things, and what does it mean to be a dentist, and then ultimately what happens to the patients in between, getting viewed by different levels of credential and licensure. But if this does pass, I think it will be an interesting evolution in the spreading scope of dental health aid therapists, dental hygienists, dental assistants, and dentists in the US. So we'll continue to watch that. California looks like it's trying to move towards mandatory vaccination for COVID. There are 2 counties currently that are looking to require that as part of their licensure for their medical professionals, which would include dentists. These 2 counties are San Luis Obispo and Yolo. Please don't ask me to pronounce it twice. But those 2 counties that come forward wanting to require new vaccination requirements for dental offices. I think a lot actually, and for multiple other respiratory viruses, including influenza and RSV. So I think it'll be interesting to watch what comes of that particular mandate. And I'm sure the large dental organizations are also watching that very closely as they sort of navigate mandatory vaccination for the dental professional. So we'll keep you posted on that. Guys, there is a man who broke a record this week from Ukraine. He broke the record for pulling the most number of cars with his jaw. So this Dmytro Hrinsky, and I'm sure I totally butchered that, was successful at breaking the record by pulling 6 cars over a distance and in the fastest time. So he pulled it in 15.63 seconds. The previous record belonged to an Australian man who pulled 5 cars with his teeth in 2021, and a Syrian man who performed the 30-meter pull in 18.13 seconds in 22. Now, we're going to add a little twist to this particular world record. He not only pulled 6 cars, but 6 passengers, as each car had a driver in the driver's seat. And he pulled those for a total of 30 meters in just, hold on, let me get the time. So the total poundage was 16,763 pounds. And he did it in just 15.63 seconds. So if you think that you have jaws of steel, perhaps this is the new record that you should be seeking for. If he has any bonded restorations at all, I would love to meet his dentist and congratulate him on the solid work of adhesive dentistry. And with that, that's the news.
Well, JB, do you, we've got an amazing guest sitting in the wings. I am really very anxious to chat with her. This has been such a big topic since the pandemic. I mean, it was important before then, but many dentists are realizing this to be an even more important topic now. So let's bring her on.
You got it.
And let's leave Chad wherever he is.
Where is he?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm bringing Julie on, though.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
So, we're excited to have you on the show today. I have to thank a good friend, Susan McMahon, for making the introduction. She's been...
You got to come see Chad.
Is that Conway, South Carolina? In the
he's not in Halloween, South Carolina.
That's the geographic pin for Conway's Halloween, South Carolina. Excuse me.
Sorry.
Anyway, Julie was introduced. It's funny because I'd actually already kind of become a fan, watching a lot of activity on social media about her book and about, focusing in on profitability and running practices that are beneficial both for the patient and the clinician. And I love that. I think it's such an important current topic and challenge that many of us are struggling with as we continue to find the joy in dentistry and excited to practice. Julie is a practicing periodontist, joins us from the great state of Kansas, where Chad's only best friend is located. And we're just really honored to have her here to talk a little bit about her book, a little bit about practice, a little bit about her favorite cocktails and food across the globe, and just a little bit about dentistry. So with all that, Julie, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Well, thanks for having me.
Chad, are you good? You can go now.
Don't put that clown outfit back on, please.
No.
So that is the stuff of I now have 2 friends in Topeka, Kansas. So you know what? I'm going to hang out with my friend, Julie Woods, the periodontist from Kansas, Topeka.
Okay. I'd get that in writing, Chad. Mm-hmm. All right, Julie. So let's talk about, let's just start with your journey. Let's start with maybe, when you decided dentistry was going to be the profession for you, what early career looked like, and sort of how have we evolved and would see you as a practicing dentist over the last couple of decades.
Okay. So I went to college. I started college in 1990. We're going to go back that far. And my dad was a college prof, engineering college prof. And so I started in engineering. I did not stay there very long. I had some other things happen in college. My sister was killed in a car accident, some things that kind of made college not so fun.
Yeah.
So I was home one time doing what all people should do, which is go see their dentist every 6 months. And my dentist was asking me about college and how it's going. And he's actually the one that said, "Hey, I started in architectural engineering. Have you ever thought about being a dentist?" And I said, "No, never thought of it. I didn't know a female dentist. I didn't know anything about dentistry. My older sister wanted to be a doctor, but I did not have any desire to do that." But he really kind of sold me on it. He was like, we get to set our own hours. We're our own boss. You make a good living. He's just like, it'd be perfect for a mom, all that, which I was not worried about at that time at all. But so fast forward, I started looking into it more and joined like a pre-dental society group kind of thing, and started working towards that career path. Got in dental school, went to UMKC, graduated, went straight to perio. My dad was still trying to get me to be an engineer. Had to take the GRE.
Even when you're in dental school?
Oh, after dental school.
Oh my God.
Okay.
We had to take the GRE just because we had to get a master's down at Baylor. And they were like, "You don't have to get a certain score. You just got to go take it." And so we went and did it. And he's like, "Those are really good scores. Are you sure about this?" And I said, "I'm more sure about periodontics than I am about dentistry. If you had told me I had to be a dentist right after dental school, I would have been terrified." I just didn't feel prepared at all. Maybe not at all, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I was dead set on going to perio. Love perio. I love saving teeth. So I will say I'm probably I'm not one of the few. There are several periodontists that don't love implants. I'm one of them. So I'm much more traditional, like to keep teeth, like to do bone grafting, like to do gum grafts, that kind of thing.
Do you place implants?
I do.
Okay.
But I'm picky about it.
Okay.
And I'm more than happy to let the oral surgeons, and in Topeka, a lot of oral surgeons do them, and I'm cool with that.
So you went to dental school at UMKC or residency?
Dental.
Okay.
Residency down at Baylor.
Okay. When were you at Baylor?
2001 to 2004.
We'll talk later.
Okay.
Later. Take it offline.
So I came back to Kansas in 2004. I've been in Topeka ever since. I took over a practice. I bought it in 2006. My former boss stayed on and worked part-time for 2 years. So I feel really lucky about how all that went down after hearing lots of really horrible stories. I had a great experience. I had my one and only baby, who's now a senior in high school. When I was an associate, I got paid time off. I mean, I was a salaried associate, which, a lot of those discussions are coming up now too. Like, how do we compete with DSOs? But I was paid. It was great. So then about a dozen years in, I really hate it. So we're at like 2017. I'm at my highest production, highest collection. I'm taking home what I've been taking home, even though all of that is high, and I don't have enough money to pay Christmas bonuses. I don't have enough money sitting in the bank to cover them. And I don't know why.
Because you didn't do many implants. I'm teasing.
I did a ton of implants that year.
I'm teasing. Sorry, I just had to throw that out there. I'm fascinated by this. This is good.
I know. No,
I'm
so
sorry.
It's kind of funny because back in 2017, we did a lot of implants. We did a lot of all-on-4 cases because I had perio patients that were hearing about them, on TV and marketing, and, that we'd been talking to, and we got very educated in it. And we had a lot of trouble getting Aaron Hoffman and them won't do those kind of cases. So I had to work with the lab
It's
over.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Over in Kansas City, which is over an hour away. And a lot of dentists in our town at that point weren't restoring them. It was a mess. So I was having to help restore them too. So let's remember, I'm a periodontist who loves to save teeth. So that was not my gig either. So, and implants cost a lot. Like if I do a gum graft, I don't have like all that extra cost of buying a supply. So almost left dentistry or wanted to leave dentistry. My husband, who's sitting right here listening, he is a surgeon and he was hating his life as well, general trauma surgeon. And so he got to quit his job and go get a new job. And I was so jealous, you guys. I talk about it in the book, so it's not like this is a secret.
What did he do from surgery?
Yeah.
A new
So
surgery?
he went. He took a different job. He went to a different hospital.
Hi, husband.
It's Brad.
Hello.
Brad.
Hello.
Now you know 3
Hi,
people.
Brad.
We
I
have
wanna
3
be-
friends.
I want to be your friend.
Hey, Brad.
Brad,
No,
you
you
need to
don't,
really
Brad.
think through your choices.
Yeah. Yeah. You bite your tongue if you knew it was good for you.
Yeah, I feel like you make quick decisions, and this is one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's trigger happy, JB.
Yeah, he's trigger happy. Meanwhile, Julie's like, when's my ship coming in? I want to change the job. I want to get something new. All right. So he goes, he's got this new thing going. You're like,
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't no longer had to work 8 to 5 and take, 24-hour call. And it was it was better for him. And for a while it was better. And then it got not so great. So he has left that job and now he does locums, which if I could figure out how to do locums, that'd be awesome. So now he works, 8 to 10 days a month.
Wait, you could do surgery, locum tenens?
You can.
That's
Really?
awesome.
He does trauma.
Surgery just
yeah.
with any, wow. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought like literally someone else just had to stay longer, in a trauma hospital. I didn't think that, that they would just bring temporary. Yeah. I mean, I understand when somebody leaves for a certain amount of time, but I can't imagine like, oh yeah, our trauma surgeon just called out today. Yeah.
We got Brad coming in.
We got a guy here in a tourniquet. Can he come over?
It's Brad Day.
So, but anyway, back to the Julie show, right?
yeah. Right.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, forget that Brad guy. Yeah,
I want his gig though, for real. It's
yeah,
pretty
me
sweet.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Although I gotta say, I love being an owner. So there's a lot of negatives. I definitely didn't love it in 2017. I was crying in the car at lunch a good bit. I was crying at home. My daughter at the time was asking, was I okay? That kind of thing. Long story short, I implemented Profit First. I caught my office manager ordering some supplies on my card. She was well overpaid, so that was good to get her out of there. Some things like that. So a lot of big changes happen, but they happen very slowly. It all sounds very magnificent right now, but you got to remember this is, many, many years later. So it was again a wake-up call for COVID. I think COVID really was a big change for all of us. And people realized that they didn't have as much money in the bank, or a lot of people anyway, as they thought, so far as paying teams and paying for supplies, finding all that stupid PPE that cost $1 bazillion. So I talked about, that's sort of when I started talking about it more with people about doing Profit First. And I really, some people dove into clinical stuff. I dove into like helping people get the loans and the grants and all those kind of things. Like that was my thing. And so that was sort of how I got on the map, so to speak, on doing this.
Julie, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but for a lot of us that don't know it, the term Profit First was that like were those principles that were out there already, or is that something that you trademarked? And
Great question, Jeff. Yeah.
What?
Great question.
Yeah.
No, it is. And
I was
because
really
I
thinking the
forget
same
that
thing.
everybody doesn't know what it is. No, so it's a cash management system. Mike Michalowicz wrote the original book on it, called Profit First. Can you get it to me? It's like right there.
I thought you were going to say Brad wrote it.
No. He wouldn't be doing locums, right?
Right.
Oh, I don't have the cover for it. That's okay. I was just going to read the subtitle, like turn your cash eating monster, Your business is an out of control cash eating monster.
So it's not a
Transform your business.
dentistry book.
That's what I was going to ask
Dentistry-specific
next.
book.
No, not at all. It's all about cash management. So the way I described it before, like to my parents or anyone else, was like Dave Ramsey cash envelope kind of system, but for business, and it's using bank accounts as opposed to envelopes. But it's basically where you're learning to budget and set aside money for profit, for your compensation, for paying your quarterly taxes, all that kind of thing. So he has you set up several different accounts. I think originally it's like 4 or 5, and then he wanted you to have 2 at another bank. I never did the 2 at the other bank. Shh, don't tell anyone.
Okay, I won't tell. I won't tell.
Now I
Before
have
you go any further, what are quarterly taxes?
you have to be profitable to actually have to pay them.
I sure hope the IRS ain't listening.
Oh, Julie, that was a burn, and he didn't even hear it.
No, I didn't hear it.
No, she said you have to be profitable to pay quarterly tax.
Oh,
That's why
nice.
you don't know.
So
You
she
know,
obviously understands the sleep and TMJ business then.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So I have like 9 accounts now. So I totally use it for budgeting purposes at this point. I have a staff payroll. I have my own payroll. I have a CE account. I have a major purchases account. We've just cash flowed a whole remodel of the office. Those kind of things. But it didn't start there at all. My overhead was, like 84% before this. I was still in network with the big boys, Delta, Blue Cross, even as a premier provider. At some point, I was writing off like collectively for my practice, like 35%. I mean, that's just not sustainable. And it's like end of 2021, beginning of 22, I was kind of like, this sucks again. Like, this isn't very fun to work this hard and like have back pain and, deal with staff. I was doing 99% of all the scaling and root planing again, because we were short of hygienists. I love to save teeth, but I don't love to save them that badly.
Um,
I love to save teeth as long as I'm not the one who has to scale and root plane.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair.
So, Julie, how much of your team? So, first off, I love the concept. Big Dave Ramsey fan as well. Just sort of like intentional with your money and how you spend it each month. And I actually do something similar with our bank accounts because I'm a visual person. So I just need to see them individually to watch money kind of move in and out. And I don't have a CFO like a lot of like very fancy companies telling me like, we have to sort of manage all these little nuances. So it was really just me sort of watching accounts go up and down and managing cash flow that way. But how much of your team is involved in that? So if the philosophy is profit centered first, I would assume there's some buy-in or exposure to the financial position of the practice with the team. I could be wrong, but I would think.
Yeah. So I didn't share a whole lot of that stuff before with my team. I don't know why. I was just very guarded about it. And we're all very funny about money. I think, people are funny about money. But I learned that I kind of had to be. I mean, we had to have a kind of that moment of like, you guys, I paid. And I told them again when book released, like, I just want you to know it's going to say how miserable I was, because I still have a couple team members here that were with me at that point. And, but, so now we talk about it, and I would say they're involved, but they don't have to be in the sense of like, but I naturally get the people that like to sort of be the savers, they like to find the better deal. When our health insurance was set to renew last year, it was ridiculously higher than it was the year before. So they are smart enough to know that if we're paying way too much in health insurance, then I can't give them raises per se, because I'm having to do that. So they are the ones who did the research and helped us find a better plan for our whole team. So I'd say they're more involved now than they've ever been. They get it, so we had to have that kind of conversation of going out of network too, though, because we had to talk about that we weren't going to worry if we weren't as busy, because we were going to make more money. We were going to collect more money. And I took over a practice that we never collected day of service for hygiene patients, for perio maintenance patients. We never collected money. We collected money, like an estimated payment for surgery patients, but we never collected money from our long-term. I've got patients that have been with my practice the whole time I've been there. So that was a big shift. All of us had to get very comfortable with that language and talking to people. It's going to be a little bit different, but we're still going to submit it to your, insurance company, but you're going to pay us up front, because a couple of them, reimburse the patient now instead. So that's nice. We spend a whole lot less time chasing down money. Now they're like excited about that. They're like, our AR is down to 3 pages. Like used to be, I don't know, double that at least. You know what I mean? But it's just like the little things that I used to think I was the only one that was like excited or even noticing. Now, they're noticing it too.
So Julie, what at what point did you feel comfortable enough with all of these principles and saying, I feel good. I've gotten a hold of my business, and now I think I have something that I can share with other people. At what point did that happen? And then when did the book come into play, and what did you add to what you've learned? I know it's a 3-part question, but
see if I can handle it. So during COVID, kind of when I was starting to like really just dive into all of that, I learned about when people were asking, I wanted to make sure I was telling them the right information. I'd read the book and I'd been doing it, so I knew that, but I still wasn't 100% certain, because it's pretty bookish, pretty businessy. It's not for dentists, like you guys were saying. And so I did some research, and I found out that you can become a profit first professional, which is usually bookkeepers and accountants and all those people. It is not dentists. I had to like interview for it. I had to like ask to, pay this money to take, to take the test to become this. And he originally, Ron, who's one of the co-founders of White McCallum, told me no. And I was like, what? Like, I'm not used to hearing no, but like, and I've gone to how much schooling, but he just wasn't sure that I could really like make a business out of this. And they want people to do profit first, even for their profit first business kind of thing. So, which I value. Anyway, they finally took a chance. I said, look, I've got people begging me for this information. I need to make sure I'm doing it right. So we did that. And then the more I talked about it, the more people asked me. They knew they couldn't work with just me because I'm so private, practice, and I can't do consulting all the time. Don't want to. They asked for a book. Could you write a book for us? Could you write an accounting for, dental dummies? Can you do those kind of things? And
why would you write a book just for Chad?
Excellent.
See, this is how I live.
Yeah, it's actually what makes us really popular.
I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You were doing so good answering my 3-part question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had that. So people, I never intended to write a book. Like, that's not been a dream of mine. I love to read. I'm an avid reader, but I love fiction way more. So that wasn't really on my plan. But through that Profit First Professional Network, a gal that I met there said, well, if you really are thinking about doing this, then you should take AJ Harper's class. She's Mike's ghostwriter. So I did. I took a workshop. I learned how to make it reader focused, and actually give the reader what they want. Make sure that it would be read. Like, so I'm not just trying to sell you my book so that you can come work for me. My point of writing the book is so that you don't need me. If you needed to do this totally on your own for, $24.95, now you can. And she made me lean into doing more than just the profit first or just the accounting for dentist. She's like, you've got a lot more knowledge that you can share on block scheduling and accounts receivable and teams and all of that. And so she, really encouraged me to lean into that. And it's not just me, I don't know who all you guys have as your educational partners, but I will shout out. I'm going to shout out.
Do it.
You shout out.
Do it.
Hashtag it. Hashtag it.
Yeah. Yeah. At everyone.
Hashtag everyone, right? No.
Yeah.
At everyone this.
Profi 2020 CPA firm. I know Chris Sands is in the group. I noticed that today. And then Leanne Gambit, I know, is in here from Upstream Dental. They've been helpful with some things, and they're in the book. And then Bill Hiltz, that kind of helps do embezzlement stuff. Also, I hired him to make sure that I was not committing insurance fraud when I fired my office manager. So yeah, I mean, it's been a fun project. It's been very well received. I did want to mention, because you guys asked me that earlier. I know you were going to put a link on like where to buy the book. That's like Amazon, any retailers, but also on drjuliewoods.com/book are the resources for the book. And it's kind of hard to find if you're on a mobile device. So I've had people like email me and say, I'm just trying to find your resources for like the book, because there's worksheets and that kind of thing, but that's where they are. So
That's really awesome. And completely off topic from dentistry, but a lot of people who do listen to the program or have a unique niche, kind of like what you've developed over time, do have this desire, dream, want to write a book, and they're of that creative mindset and they want to put pen to paper. And if you could just spend a few minutes, I'm genuinely curious about the process of, all right, so I have this book and I'm going to develop this content. How the heck do you get it into the hands of someone who can read it?
Well, so once it's a longer answer, but the main answer is once you've got it written, it's been edited, proofread, that kind of thing, then it goes to a copy editor, which is going to be the person who double checks the actually the copy editor would do that. Then the proofreader, which is my mom, who was also a copy editor.
Convenient.
Yeah. She worked at Wichita State, so she did all their copy editing, but she's excellent for that. But they said she couldn't change my content. Like, no, your mom doesn't have those. She's literally just proofreading at this point. Okay. Got it. And then it has to be, laid out, like put typeset is what it's called, but like, all the graphics and all that. And so I had to like draw some of my graphics, you guys, and be like, make this like nice. I mean, they're not my drawings, which is funny. We were talking about drawings this weekend, and I was like, it's Saturday Night Live, so I can't believe you guys said that earlier. But yeah, so all those kind of things, and then like I had to try to come up with these graphics that didn't look just like Excel spreadsheets, because that just makes everyone want to cry. I didn't want people crying. And then get a cover, get a new headshot, all that kind of stuff. But once that's all put together, then the typesetter did most of that work for me. And because she was also my graphic kind of designer type person. Once it's ready to go, then if you self-publish, which is what I did, then you basically put it on the internet through Ingram Spark is the name of the company I used. And then they help get it out everywhere else.
So then you're just like contracting with third-party support. Essentially, you've got this idea, you're going to reach out to vendors or, people within the industry to sort of help support your journey. But at the end of the day, you are self-publishing. I would assume if you're trying to get someone to help you publish it, probably doing that pretty early on in that process, because they have all those individual third parties that they work with. And
exactly. And so, I mean, the part what was interesting to me though was like, so everyone's like, well, you can make a lot of money off a book. I'm like, yeah, I mean, you could maybe. That's not why I wrote it, of course,
Yeah.
but it's also, I've put a lot of money into it because I've taken these courses and I've paid the typesetter and I paid the, copy editor and all that. But I've learned a lot about the bookmaking process and how expensive, authors don't make that much. And even when they're published by a publisher, they make even less. So frankly, I will ultimately get more of the profit by doing it this way, but it's been an interesting, I think it would be easier to do book 2, but I don't know what book 2 is going to be. So,
well, and I could imagine you just feel that pressure of like, because I think the guys and I feel it when, we're doing decks and stuff, you're going to do a lecture. And then immediately after you do the deck, you're like, oh, there's 4 things I did different in practice this week that now I got to go and revise the deck and get it updated with where I currently am thinking and how I'm currently running. Like I could feel this constant churn of, oh, I need a V2. I need a V3. Like,
duh. That's why they have ebooks. You just change it as you go.
okay. No.
And Chad's always playing with his deck.
What? Testing.
I couldn't resist. I'm like, do I? Don't I? I'm like, I got it. Please remove 49.42 to 50.07. Thank you.
I said deck.
Deck.
Whatever you said, Jeff, it was inappropriate and rude to our guest.
Sorry.
And Brad.
Yeah,
I will sit in the corner.
Offended.
Sorry.
No, but here's the deal. I love your vulnerability by sharing with us where you started, kind of where it came from. I love your openness about the book because I think that is, unless you have somebody backing it, writing a book is not going to be like the most profitable venture, at least the first time. I mean, you're not. I'm sorry, but you're not Danielle Steele yet. You might be. I'm sorry. I mean, but I think that it's something that everybody should do, and I think it's something that a lot of people want to do, and I love and appreciate you sharing it with us.
Sure.
So,
my pleasure.
Yeah. Hey, I have and it's maybe a little off topic, but not. If you could, or let me rephrase this. What would you say is the most common mistake that dentists make that take away from their profitability? Because I always see dentists worrying so much about how much they're spending on their dental materials when, you're talking about 3% of your overhead versus 4%, and they're making themselves nuts over a 1% difference. And I get it that every percent counts. There are more impactful. I think that there are more impactful areas. So what would you say in your experience is the number one mistake that dentists make with regard to being profitable?
Well, I would say the number one area they overspend on, for sure, is staff. They either pay way too much or they're overstaffed. Almost always. The few that aren't are practicing, and hygiene, makes more price. So perio, not a great moneymaker from that perspective, in the sense that we have to have a lot of hygienists or have hygienists. All those ortho, endo, oral surgery, pedo that don't have to have, expensive hygienists do well. So that's, part of it. But I agree with you, Jeff. I noticed that too. Like sometimes when people are complaining about, like the credit card processing fees or whatever, I'm like, you guys, like, again, every percent counts, but you're overpaying, Sally at the front desk by a lot, and you don't even need the third person up there, or that kind of thing. And my favorite are office managers. Unless you're a big practice, office managers, that's just a title where someone's getting paid more and probably doing some of the work you should be doing more of. That I would say that was my biggest mistake, was giving too much of it away. and focusing too much on being in the operatory.
I've always been, when I first started out, I was told that I micromanage, and I think that that's changed quite a bit. But I'm going to micromanage this conversation and go back to something you said earlier and ask you a question, because I think it's something that's burning on a lot of dentists' minds. You mentioned health insurance. Okay. First of all, I love it that you offer it to your team. But would you mind sharing with us kind of what you all do in regards to health insurance? Because that's a very hot topic in dentistry. And I know that if anybody knows how to find it, you do. So what did you all do?
So we've kind of gone through the whole progression of whether it was covered or not covered and whatnot. My former boss, luckily, again, my transition was great. When I was an associate, mine was covered by my boss, the former periodontist, at 100%. It was Blue Cross. I didn't pay a dime to have my baby, all that. And that's a big thing that I wanted to be able to do. I was single for a while. I'm a divorced, remarried. So it was very important for me to have that for myself, but also I have single moms in my practice, too. So, they don't have a spouse to rely on getting, and my spouse is on mine. I'm telling you guys.
What a drag.
Anywho, but Blue Cross is the ones who, put everything back up. So where we get it from right now is through Farm Bureau. And they don't have it in every state, so you have to check. But it was by far the best plan for us. And you have to do it. It's weird because you have to do everything individual. So even though my daughter and Brad are on my policy, they're really individual.
That's very interesting. And I would love to do a whole segment on that at some point in time, because it's such a hot topic. I mean, we use a payroll company that does a lot for our office. And the whole reason that we have them is for the health insurance. Am I crazy about what they do? No, but that was the only way that we could get healthcare coverage that was affordable. And it was my business partner and I who really needed it, because our spouses don't have jobs that we could get their health insurance through. It's not cheap by any means, but it was going up, believe it or not, 40 to 70% a year before we got the payroll servicing company. And now when she called, I just had the call today at lunch. She's like, it's going up 10.2%. I'm like, yes, thank you. That's great. She's like, you're not upset about that? I was like, I'm just thankful that we have it, Right. But I'm starting to think about this MetaShare and all this stuff, start looking into things. So I may pick your brain on that later, but thank you very much for sharing that. And somebody commented that Farm Bureau is amazing. Melissa Schutt-Skaggs, who I went to school with, said you're amazing. So I'll agree with Melissa.
I have one.
Yeah, you got a lot of fans out there. You got a lot of groupies.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time tonight. And I will order your book. I want to read it, because I've been in the place that you were in 2017. I get it. I think.
Speaking of that, Chad, I would love to close the show. We sort of glossed over it, but I think what you were feeling in 2017 and sort of being in that place of not sure if this is the right profession and where you go from here, obviously is not unique to a good majority of the professionals in dentistry. And unfortunately, I think it's getting worse. Post-COVID, financial constraints with, growing inflation. And there's so much happening from a economic perspective in the world of dentistry. And so if you had, I don't know if it's advice or if there was a moment in time where you could look back and say, that was sort of that defining moment, that fork in the road that said, I'm going to change this trajectory, but I'm going to stick with this profession, but I'm going to redefine what it looks like for me. If there's any parting advice, words of wisdom, thoughts on those who may be listening that are sitting in their car right now crying because they don't love being a dentist and don't know exactly where to go at this point.
Well, I think it's okay if you're not a dentist. I will say that up front. I say it in the book. And so I think you've got to always remember that. But ultimately, you'll be okay if you're not. If I had sold my practice, I still owed on my practice, all of that. I felt very trapped. And I talk about that, about debt in my practice. But you can get out of anything. If it's not the right fit, then that's okay. But I think if you have more control over the finances, you can feel better about all the other things. But they're still going to be, everything's a job, so nothing's perfect. But I'm back to loving practice again. The turning point. I know Brad's like turning point. I don't know. I mean, I'd say what the most recent turning point was, I worked with Josie DeVideo with her Crown of Wellness program. And a lot of it was just really figuring out what I wanted, what was success to me, what I saw our future, as a family to be. Did I want to stay till I was 60 or 65? Nope. So I needed to figure out how to do what I wanted to do. And we could do that right now. So right now I'm doing what I want to do. And that's, doing dentistry and helping people do this.
Well, the one thing I think we've observed in the numerous guests that we've had on the show is being okay with the evolution of who you are as a person and profession, both, with things that are going on personally and also as you're figuring out your journey with dentistry. And that, to your point, it's okay to redefine yourself a few times actually through that journey. I think we feel so much pressure to get it right out the gate. And then when it doesn't fulfill our expectations or our expectations need to change, we're really slow, I think, at times to sort of adjust to that. So I think you continue to be a testament to many professionals to say it's okay to evolve and to become a different version of yourself, whether that's a dentist or not, but not be afraid to accept that reality. So I applaud you for your journey.
Thank you.
I also applaud you for finding your passion that brought you back to clinical dentistry, that wasn't necessarily the clinical aspect of dentistry. So that's cool.
That's the message I took as well, which is, it's really easy to experience burnout when you're not taking any money home.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, when there's a reward for your hard work at the end of the day, then it feels good. When there's not, it doesn't feel so good.
It's amazing how many times my partner and I have looked at each other and said, everyone's gotten a raise in the last 4 years but us.
Yeah.
Right.
It's fine.
Well, we get paid last.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you do it right, you get paid last.
Yep.
I've always told my staff I'd go broke before I didn't pay you. So, that's it. We get paid last.
That's our problem. We're too nice.
Yeah. I think we need to look at his P&L, Julie.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got some words to say to you.
Well,
who's going to close us out?
I know what you mean too. I know
it's worked. It's worked for us, but that's just the way that I was raised. So, anyhow, I'll close this out. I just want to say thank you for being a great guest. Thank you for sharing, your pivot and your turning point in dentistry. Thank you for being so open, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with others. And everybody, please buy Julie's book because it's going to make her rich.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
That
Please
was
kind of like our show.
Yeah. I can already tell that there's a lot of
from this podcast.
Invaluable information in there. So y'all have a great evening. Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
And that wraps up another podcast for Dentists in the Know. On behalf of Dr. Jennifer Bell, Dr. Chad Duplantis, and myself, remember that we've got a great profession. So let's make it a great day, dinks.